Dement, what's up, fellas?
Hey, hey.
Hey, hey. Well,
So, man, you have a title coming up, which is crazy because, man, you've only been doing this for what, a couple years now.
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah, it's insane, and just climb through the rankings really quickly in bare knuckle, and just like now you're about to fight for the title with against Lorenzo Hunt. So,
right.
What's that looking like, man?
Man, it's looking great. You know, I was talking to Jake the other day and a couple of different people, about how it's coming together, and it's just something that, we kind of put out there in the universe, and it's kind of come together. So, we've just been, head down, grinding. We've been focusing on one fight at a time, and mainly just, we haven't specifically just been focusing on the fighters as much as just making me a better fighter.
Yeah.
And, there's so much more to learn in bare knuckle. We haven't seen it all. So, me and Jake get to nerd out a lot on that, coming up with different things and different perspectives based on, because I'm more of the MMA background. He's coming from the boxing. And, so we kind of mix that together, and it's really just starting to evolve into something for us.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to ask Jake about, and you, but like moving from MMA to this. And are you still practicing jiu-jitsu at all, like just to stay in shape? And
yeah, I still teach jiu-jitsu pretty regularly.
Okay,
and then I grapple. I cut my grappling down when it gets close to a fight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still active doing jiu-jitsu.
Do you think that's good for cardio and like clinch situations and stuff like that, where you may not train that if you're just strictly doing like a boxing training?
Yeah, and it's a little bit different type of cardio. Like with boxing, we're just trying to relax the whole time.
Yeah.
You're trying to be as fast as possible, relax, conserve all that energy, and in jiu-jitsu you can't do that.
Yeah.
And so the goal with jiu-jitsu is to learn to do that. Through obstacles, people pushing, grabbing you, and to a certain extent it helps out. I like the mental, competition with it. I can usually do a decent amount of grappling without worrying about getting cut.
Yeah.
And having serious injuries. If I'm grappling with the right people. And but yeah, man, it's also kind of a break for me. Because I kind of get almost obsessed with what I'm doing in boxing, and then it's nice to kind of have to, all right, I need to reset, we're doing jiu-jitsu, and then get into that other world for a minute, and then it keeps both of them fresh.
So kind of like a break, but you're still getting some work in.
Right. Yeah. I'm still training.
Right.
So a lot of my jiu-jitsu training, I've incorporated a lot of stuff from my boxing as far as footwork, warm-ups, things of that nature.
Yeah. Well, what have you seen, Jake, like in this being here with Quentin and in the corner and stuff, and like moving from boxing to bare knuckle, like what's that looking like?
yeah, it's cool. I really didn't know what to think about it at first. I thought it was a little brutal, at first. But it's been it's nice when you win, and we've been out there winning, and my experience with Quentin, my experience with Andy, I look forward to the same experience with Lauren, going out there and just outboxing them.
Yeah.
And it's been cool. It's definitely different. The 2-minute rounds is really strange to me, because we acclimate to 3 minutes.
Right.
Everything we do is 3 minutes, and our minds and bodies are on a 3-minute timer. In that 2 minute, it's like we get going and then it's over.
Yeah.
So when to put the sprint, when to go is kind of, and strategy is a lot different. Like Quentin said, that the formula hasn't even been come up with yet in bare knuckle. Like we're still working on it. Holds, checks, shoulder bumps, grabs. Dirty boxing is encouraged, so it's not like the shit you see on TV.
Right? Yeah,
it's a little more. You're not going to get somebody. The only time someone's going to break is because if nothing's happening.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if two guys lock up and they're banging, they're just going to let you. They'll let you hold, grab the head, hockey style. I mean, they like that.
Yeah. Well, I like what's happened here with it, and like, well, it's exciting too. This is the first time it's been in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And
yep. Ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the last sanctioned bare knuckle fight was like in 1851 in Hattiesburg.
I thought it was New Orleans.
Yeah, they had one in New Orleans. Or it was supposed to be in New Orleans, and I think it was getting shut down, and they ended up doing it in secret in Meridian or Hattiesburg.
Okay.
Somewhere in Mississippi. They got a big monument and stuff over there.
I think Marquez of Queensberry Rules was established in the late 1800s, which is where you have rounds and where you can strike, and
right.
It makes you wonder how many people got hurt and killed before they brought in those rules.
Well, man, like it's brutal to me, man, because like we've never got a chance to really train together, but I've trained with a lot of guys and heavyweight guys, sparred with them, but always with gloves on. Like,
right.
I mean, yeah, we've had our times where we've done things outside of the gym where you weren't using any kind of protection. But like, what's that like now? Like, what's that like transitioning from? I guess you were already using 4-ounce gloves, so,
right?
But like, what's that like transition to just throwing these punches and taking the hits too?
Man, on the other note, like bare knuckle thing, they also rounds back then didn't end until you got knocked down.
Oh shit! Okay.
So like the last sanctioned fight went 75 rounds.
Holy shit!
So that means there were 74 knockdowns in the fight, and that's how long a round would go. So as many people died, probably a lot.
Yeah,
if those were the rules.
Holy
you know what I mean? Yeah, because you had guys back then that were coming out of the Irish potato famine, and people that really knew what it was like to be hungry.
Yeah.
And if they didn't win, they didn't get my money. So they might as well be dead, a lot of them. So there's no telling, how that went. Because 75 rounds, bro, no, I'm done.
No,
I'm done. We've got a lot of rules and stuff now that have completely, cut all that down. And, that's one of the reasons we got the 2-minute rounds. That's one of the reasons it's only 5 rounds. But, as far as getting hit, it was nerve-wracking. And at first, before it had ever happened. And then once I got hit, I was like, all right, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
It stings more, and really one of the best ways to describe it is like it's the difference if I were to slap you in the back or punch you in the back.
Yeah, right.
There's the surface pain is a lot more. There's like a burn, but as far as the shock wave getting sent into your brain and your head, it's nowhere near as bad. Like in MMA, I fought at 185. I was cutting a lot of weight. But every time I got hit, I could hear my head rattle or ring.
Yeah, there's that ringing when those gloves tap your face for some reason. It's like thud into
it sounds like when you kick a kickball.
It's because of the hand wrap.
It's the same noise.
We're allowed to wrap your hand like a cast. I mean, everything that's. I mean,
right.
You don't have that luxury.
The human body, it's made. We have joints, and it's one of the principles in jiu-jitsu is that the more joints I have between my leverage and the fulcrum, the weaker it is. Right. Yeah. So I don't want to pull from your hand because all these joints are weak points because they're made to absorb or flex. And when you wrap a hand, it takes the ability for that to happen away. So now, when you hit me, you're just giving. Right. Your hand and your wrist isn't absorbing any of the impact. So, but it's almost impossible to hit somebody full force and your wrist not give.
Yeah.
And, so you watch a lot of the videos or you see some stuff like in slow motion when they have stops and stuff, everybody's wrist when it lands is bent somewhat.
Yeah, you see different angles. If you see, it's interesting because you see when you have gloves on, everything looks crisp and perfect in highlight reels and in still shots, but in your guys' sport, it's like there's weird angles where I didn't think your punch landed clean, but it fucking did, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. So, and then if your hands are wrapped and then they have an MMA glove or a boxing glove on, you're not getting that bend in the wrist.
Right.
You're not getting that type of absorption as far as the impact goes. I think one of the big reasons it's safer is because people are starting to learn that they just can't throw any punch.
Right.
Like in boxing, a lot of times, the goal is to be accurate. The goal is to hit them on the chin or in the soft tissues of the face, but it's okay if that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like boxers are worried about don't hit him on top of the head. Yeah. But besides that, everything else is pretty much okay.
Right.
And in bare knuckle, I was talking to Lauren the other day because we were talking about, the difference in like what I'm doing versus what I used to do. And, that's what I was telling him. I was like, look, every time you punch, because we have to spar with gloves on.
Yeah.
But you have to understand the difference in where that was a good punch or a bad punch. And I said, I tell myself every time I throw a punch, and if it doesn't land in the soft part of the mask of the face, or somewhere in the stomach, then I just broke my hand and the fight's over. So being accurate is way more important than just landing the shot.
Well, that's a good point because I never even thought about that. But yeah, that makes sense because you have no protection at all, and those spots that don't give are gonna you're gonna be in trouble.
And there's a lot of guys that they either learn or don't learn that, and there's been actually. Based on the studies that they've been doing, there's been less hand fractures in bare knuckle than there have been like regular boxing. But it's because of the fact that you see some of the fights these guys throw with reckless abandonment.
Right.
But at the same time, the more experienced guys are the better ones. They know this, and they're being more accurate with their punches. Like you look at the punch counts compared to like a boxing round, about half as many punches are thrown, and about a quarter of the punches are landed. You know what I mean? Because the risk reward factor is a lot, it's greater in bare knuckle. If I don't land this right, if you got a guy who's good at checking leg kicks, you're probably not going to throw as many.
Right, exactly.
And then this guy doesn't have to be good at throwing leg kicks. You just or checking them. You just got to mess up once, and now my hands broke. And there's been some guys that have had issues with that. And then they continue to fight and all, but there's just other things to consider. As far as like. There's less brain damage, but there's a little bit more like superficial damage as far as getting cuts or having to get sutures and all that type of stuff. But what I tell people is that doesn't keep me from teaching my grandkids their ABCs.
Yeah.
Because I got a couple stitches, but brain damage will. CTE will. So there's that, and then in my training I try and think about taking that into consideration is the fact that every time you get hit, there's a chance to get cut. You might go an entire boxing round or fight and take a lot of shots and not have one cut. That's not going to happen in bare knuckle.
Yeah, you're getting cut at some point. Yeah,
pretty much. If you get hit, a quarter of the time you're at least going to get cut, if not every time, depending on who's hitting you and where they're hitting you. So, the importance of head movement and defense is a lot different.
Yeah. Well, I think it's been interesting. I think the last time I talked to you, you were getting ready to fight Chris Leben.
Right.
And that was an insane matchup, man. And just to watch you go in the ring with him and fight someone of that caliber and do so well. I mean, dude, you sit there, y'all went. I mean, y'all banged out.
Right.
That dude could throw too. It was insane, man.
Right.
And just to see you continue to progress after that, man, it's been awesome to watch because like you said, these guys it's interesting to me because you're coming from MMA. So in that's how I know Jake and know you, and like being well versed in that's interesting, but it's also cool to see these people transition from there. Like I'm seeing new people constantly move from UFC to there and stuff like that. But I think it is important that, like you said, that you were talking to Lauren about adjusting those shots and stuff. I think it's important for people to know that. I did see that last card. It was probably 2 weeks ago. Dotson.
Right.
That was insane.
Yeah.
That little dude is so fast.
Yeah, he is wild.
And then Taylor Starling she had some trouble, man. That was rough.
Yeah, that was strange. But I kind of see. I know what she feels almost. And it wasn't. It was kind of what I felt like in the beginning, that she was kind of getting pushed to the top a little too soon.
Yeah.
Not that she doesn't have the potential to be a champion or beat Christine. I think she definitely does. But at the same time, Christine is an OG of this.
Yeah.
And Taylor, she's had some great fights and had some pretty good wars, but she's still young.
Yeah.
In the sport, and but I think a lot of times, and the same thing happened with me when I fought Leben. In my mind, he was on a level that I hadn't achieved yet.
Yeah.
And, so I'd gotten too hyped up and I was too excited thinking that was something that I needed. And really, I learned at the end of that fight, I was well within his league, if not over it.
Yeah.
And the only thing he had me is he was calm and I wasn't. And, so once you kind of have that moment and you've been thrown into it a little bit, a lot of times it helps you to feed off of and come back from. So I'm hoping that's kind of what's going on with her.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing point because like so many people were talking shit. I'm like, dude, first off, I'm sure she's probably never been hit that hard. I mean, that's just being honest. Like that caliber of competition, like the girls she's fought have been game, but Christine's just
Yeah, and then people don't understand the damage that's done when you do get hit with a bare knuckle punch.
Yeah.
So like you take my last fight for example, I got hit once. Well, in that one punch, I broke my cheekbone and I broke my orbital in 2 spots.
Holy shit!
So the bottom of my orbital and then to the inside, and my sinus cavity was blown out. And he said on my sinus cavity, it looked like if you were to like thump an egg and it dented. It was cracked like that, and that was one punch. And it was right before I dropped him in the first round. He had hit me with a little jab, and I was like, oh, damn. I'm like, that hurt, like way more than it should. And I was like, I'm about to hit him. So, it was like I needed wham, and he dropped. I was like, damn. And then as soon as I walk off, you can see I'm kind of rubbing my face. And I just didn't understand, like, why that hurt so bad, pretty much, And then I went in between rounds, and that was the first thing I was telling Jake. I'm like, look, bro, my eye hurts. I'm like, I don't know what happened. I'm like, but it's killing me. And, he's like, well, can you see? And then, I covered one eye and I could see out of it, and I covered the other one. My other eye was good. But when I opened both of them, it was like double vision.
And they were calling us. They were like, the whistle was blowing while he was doing that. They're like, "Come on, you gotta go."
Shit.
And then, what I remember, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I remember this is the last fight, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, I go up there. I'm like, "Oh snap!" And I'm trying to tell Joe, who's his father's working the corner with us. I'm trying to tell him like something's wrong with his eye. And I'm walking down the stairs, and the fight started. I can hear the crowd roar, and just as I sit down to look, I see the dude fall. And he's holding his face, and his face is he's just leaking everywhere, and the fight was over. Like, as I was taking my seat, Quentin had already it was over. That was an exciting moment. Go back what you
said. It was time to get out of there.
You knew there was something wrong.
It was, and I was setting up, but like when I told Jake that in the corner, and he was like, "All right, well, look, man, you just got to deal with that shit." He's like, "I don't know what else to tell you, but you just got to deal with it." Like, get it in your mind right now that you just got to deal with it. Like, and I'm like, all right, get over with. And then, we had, the double jab we had talked about, like I've been sticking him with the jab, hit a double jab, and I had a pretty sweet combo I was coming for on a third punch, but, the last two dropped him. But that's the thing, she could have just taken, she got hit pretty hard a couple times, and to lose your sight and to have that pain is weird.
That's where I was getting at. I was like, when I said not to say that she's not a game opponent, because she's badass. I've talked to her numerous times and she's awesome. I just think that when people are talking shit about that, like, you do not realize, all these people, moment. Especially these people who are, of course, you always have the guys who are talking shit that have never even stepped in there, but even some of the people who have stepped in there on the MMA side or the boxing side, it's not the same.
Which, I know Christine. I've hung out with her a few times at fights and stuff like that. Like, she would beat up some guys her size.
Oh, I believe it.
That didn't train. Like, some of these guys making comments, she would outbox them.
I believe it.
And it would be embarrassing. Yeah. But that's just, it's just the way it is. People are always going to talk. They're always going to have their, that's why you got to find something that makes you happy outside of this. Yeah.
Well, what do you, so Lorenzo is talking a lot of shit.
Right.
But that's his game, I think. How are you guys preparing for that, and what are y'all doing? And where's your head at on all that?
Oh man, my head's in a really good place. I've just been doing me. We know what we need to do as far as how hard we need to train, where we need to go with things, and I've had a lot of good sponsors this time, so I've been able to pretty much come over here at least twice a week and work with Jake. He usually drives over 1 day a week. We got a new guy, Mark Malone, has been coming in from Dallas area.
Tyler, yeah.
Oh, Tyler, yeah. Mark's a stud. He's basically just a bigger Lorenzo.
Okay.
And the dude
boxes better a little bit.
Yeah, he's a better boxer. So I've been getting a lot of rounds in with him. That's been super good. Having somebody with speed and agility. Somebody quicker, and he's got, like I said, he's actually got reach on me, so it's, I'm bigger than Lorenzo is. I have reach on him, so getting to work with somebody of that caliber has helped out a lot, in camp, and man, as far as headspace goes, I'm in a great place.
Yeah.
Everything's running on all cylinders.
Yeah, to add to that, I'm sorry, but like whenever that kind of stuff is going on, it just helps us focus on our goal even more.
Yeah.
And turn we don't have time for any of that. We have too much to do. The guy can box, but we're better.
Yeah.
We're a better boxer.
I've been able to see you evolve since back, dude, when we were fighting ring rulers. So long ago. It's been awesome to see that. But man, the whole there's some people that's their game. To try to get someone else's head, that's their game. And there's some people that love that shit, and some people just don't entertain it. And, so it's just always interesting to see how that plays out,
Man, I really just think it's funny for the most part. You can't, unless you engage in it, it can't affect you.
Yeah.
So, I'm just not interested in engaging in it. My fan base isn't requiring that of me. That's not what I've built my career on. Doing podcasts like this, and that's the stuff they want to see.
Yeah.
They don't want to see me sitting there hollering over somebody or any of that kind of nonsense. And it would be disingenuous if I were to do it.
Right.
So that's his thing. He's the one that acts like a clown and does all the theatrics. That's something that he needs apparently to fuel himself. And have at it. But once I go join your circus, now I'm the clown too, and I'm not about that life.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it for sure. Well, how do you feel about bringing this title to Monroe, man? That's awesome. Like just thinking about that just gives me chills because I mean I feel like that's where it all started, right? You know,
Right.
Like, that's where you're at.
Yeah, man, that was it's super strange because people were like, "Man, how'd you pull that off? How did that happen?" And you know, it's weird because when I first started bare knuckle, it was only legal in like 2 states, you know. But I talked to the commissioner here. He had come watch the fights, and he's like, you know, the MMA commissioner, Ricky.
Yeah, Ricky.
And he was like, "Man, we do need to get this over here." And you know, so ever since then, I've kind of been active in trying to see if we could get it started. And you know, our mayor back in Monroe, Friday Ellis, I started talking to him and about it, and I was like, "Look, we're trying to get it passed." You know, so I kind of maybe, you know, stretched the truth a little bit back and forth, but, you know, it ended up, you know, working out. I just talked to him Friday and was just telling him, like, look, you know, we, you know, talked to the Feldman, these guys, they want to make, you know, Monroe like the BKFC capital of Louisiana. Like, when they come to Louisiana, they're coming back here every time. You know, and he was like, "Man, I'm on board. That's awesome. You know, that's what we want to do." And then I go talk to David Feldman, and I was like, "Look, I just talked to Friday Ellis, and he wants Monroe to be the bare knuckle capital of Louisiana. Like, he wants y'all to come here every time." And David was like, "Man, that sounds awesome. That's what we want to do." You know, so and they've just they have a history of going back to the same places as long as they're treating them right.
Right.
As do any promoters. You know, as long as it's a good environment for them to promote. And you know, and our area feels like, you know, Monroe isn't exactly the Shreveport, you know, as far as size goes, but, you know, we're a pretty big town, and as far as relative to other areas, Jackson, Vicksburg, Shreveport, Dallas, Fort Worth, we're right here on I-20.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, and my people love fighting.
Well, it's like a rural metro there.
Right.
It really is, because there's a lot of people in those outlying areas that come there. You know?
Right.
And there's
Yeah.
quite a bit of people.
Monroe's not a small town per
No.
se. It's like the 4th or 5th biggest in Louisiana, you know, whatever that amounts to. But you know, but we just don't have the events like we used to, you know. So, but I'm super excited to bring that back, you know, because I mean I've got fans all over the place, and when I travel a decent ways, I still have a decent amount of fans come and watch. But that's probably only 10 or 15% of them.
Right.
You know, not everybody can take the weekend off and go see a fight, you know. So, you know, getting to be able to do it at home, and then people, you know, at the worst get a babysitter, but they can bring their kids if they want to, you know.
Oh, it's an all ages thing too?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Even kids can come.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, man, there's always a bunch of kids there. I'm
Okay.
usually taking all kinds of pictures and stuff.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, getting to do that back at home, you know, and like I said, it was just something that we had put out in the universe a long time ago. I was telling people, you know, they're like, "When they do it in Louisiana?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. I'm working on it, but, you know, I'm hoping I get to fight for a title on the first show when they come here." And I even told Friday that, you know, all that. But that was just, I just kept saying it over and over again. And, you know, it ended up, you know, coming to fruition.
Yeah, I remember, man, it's probably been 12. I know Jake remembers this, but coming from over here, like probably 12 years ago, whatever, it was like every weekend we had fights here and we had fights in Monroe. We'd come over there. I was always excited to come there, you know.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times it was us against y'all, you know what I mean? But that was back before the family kind of grew, you know, for the whole state, you know. But I remember, man, it just hadn't happened in a long time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like if Shreveport is a fight town, Monroe's equally a fight town.
For sure.
And like wherever he goes in Monroe, people holler out, Quinn. You know, since I've been hanging out with him, I'm like, people know who I am, hanging out with this guy.
Yeah.
And what's great is that he has a big support system, a huge fan base, and I wouldn't say entourage, I would say probably like a posse. These are a group of people, tough, rough guys that hang out with him, and they come to all his fights. And I've gotten to know him the last 2 years, and just hanging out, going to dinner after the fights. It's a great Waffle House. Great vibe. I mean,
we're not sponsored yet, but we're working.
We're going to get Waffle House and Adidas. We're working on Adidas. Shout out Adidas and Waffle House. I'll drive that car that's jacked up that says Waffle House on it.
Man. Hey, look, that'd be a good pool. I'm sure they'd never sponsored a fighter for. It'd be awesome. That's right up there.
Bare knuckle champion.
Hell yeah,
man. That's the fight arena. You know, it's definitely.
That's where we trained at Waffle House.
Right? Yeah, plenty of
out in the parking lot.
Oh yeah.
That's training grounds.
Yeah.
Anyways, no, it's great. He's got a great support system in Monroe, and it's great to see that. And just like we have it here, we have a huge fight community. Everyone's behind everyone. Everyone's got each other's back. Over there, it's huge.
Yeah, it's so interesting, man, how how all this stuff has evolved, and I've talked about it on the show before with multiple people who's we've all came up together. Me and you talked about it. Me and Quentin probably talked about it last time, but like how it's evolved of the growth of this area, this whole state, especially the northern part of the state, and what we've all done collectively together. Like everyone kind of helping each other out and quit kind of bickering against each other and kind of grown this, and everyone's kind of gotten in their element and playing on their strengths now, found their lane. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It's a positive environment for combat sports nowadays. Everyone's grinding, everyone's working, future's bright. I mean, the lane has been paved by like the Robert Visitations, and there's so many names of people that have come before us and made it for us, and now here we are paving another lane for the next generation, and the talent that's coming up now is pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
So I mean, no telling what's in store. I was surprised with how many people from this area, Louisiana in general, raised their hand when Bare Knuckle came. I mean, Brandon Shavers, Lauren Thibodeau. I mean, the list was. I have a long list of people.
Well, who do we have coming in? Because I haven't even looked at the card or anything. Is all that public now?
Yeah. Well, okay. yeah, it's public now. But
who do we have local that we know that are coming on the show?
Okay, you got Bosnick versus Thibodeau 2. And so Bare Knuckle.
Holy shit.
So this is Bosnick Thibodeau again.
Holy shit. Okay.
Bare Knuckle. Yeah, they're locked in.
Okay.
We got Quentin. We got Andy fighting. She's fighting. I forgot the girl. They just switched her opponent because one girl dropped. So Andy Wynn is fighting.
Yeah.
And Blake Lacaze is fighting.
Right. Yeah.
Right. He's fighting.
Blake
He's been training with Quentin a little bit over at. So if you ever seen him fight, he's phenomenal.
I'm not sure. Did he fight MMA?
No, he's a boxer.
No, he's a boxer.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's a boxer.
He fought on Amber's show at the Mudbugs Arena a couple years ago. He's like 6'7".
Okay,
175.
Yeah. Real tall guy. Yeah, he's a great boxer.
Really good boxer.
But it surprised me he stepped up. Brandon Shavers stepped up, and we got a long list of people that wanted in that had never done bare knuckle. They just wanted in because it's coming, and they want to represent. So we could really make a team right here in Louisiana of people to fight everyone else. I mean, with that many people. Doubt. We can make a team Louisiana. Well,
yeah, it's still a growing sport, too, because there's not a lot of fighters there yet. You know what I mean? I see they're coming in, but not near as what it would be MMA or even boxing.
Yeah,
the talent pool's a lot more, small.
Yeah, and, we're kind of at the same stage MMA was in its early development, because, we've only been legal for 3 years, and 1 year of that was COVID. So, when the MMA first started back in the 90s, you had wrestlers. You had boxers, and nowadays in MMA, you have people who have lived their whole life training for MMA.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot because it's insane what the difference is.
And then now you're just now starting to get guys who are thinking about bare knuckle as they're coming up through amateurs. Mm-hmm. Guys at my gym. We train boxing, but I train them like bare knuckle fighters. If they have a boxing matchup, we obviously you can't do this. But to train in the sport, throughout your whole career is a different thing, and to trying to swap gears because it's something new.
Yeah.
And bare knuckle, you had to be a professional before you can fight. Or anyway, you had to have at least 3 pro fights in either boxing, kickboxing, or any of that.
Gotcha. I didn't know that.
Is it still like that? Still like that?
Now they take people in through tryouts and stuff like that, but they will consider your amateur record and stuff now, like if you've had a lot more MMA fights and stuff. But originally it was you had to have at least 3 professional fights before they'd let you get in there. So yeah, man, it's still, like we're talking about, it's still developing as far as that goes, and you're starting to see guys like, one of them I've been holding out on is Jesse Fletcher.
Yeah.
I've been talking to him about getting on the card. And he's like a phenom as far as a kid who's been going through Golden Gloves and amateur boxing and different titles and stuff back through. And, I can see, the first time I saw him in a boxing match, it was like an amateur match at the Rec. And I was like, I came and talked to him and his dad. I was like, man, you ever thought about bare knuckle, And he was like, I was like, I'm telling you, your style would be.
And Jesse Fletcher did want to fight bare knuckle originally, but he started training with Shakur Stevenson. He joined camp with him, and he became a sparring partner for him recently. Now, Jesse Fletcher's one of the most decorated amateurs to come out of Louisiana in the last few years, and he's from Lafayette or Rain, somewhere down there. Anyways, he was really interested in it, and we were like, man, if this guy gets in bare knuckle, he's going to kill everyone.
Yeah.
But I think the money. He's going after the boxing money, you know, and I think he has a chance of going pretty far. And maybe at the end of his career he'll go into. I don't know what he wants to do, but he was definitely considering it.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is the money thing. It's like I know they're still trying to figure all that out. It seems like, you know.
Well, I mean, somebody like Jesse Fletcher, if he keeps his head on his shoulders and does right, he's destined to be a millionaire. Just sticking with what he's always done.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's plenty of, you know, I think he's on Freddie Roach's team or something at one time.
Yeah, he works with him too.
You know, so I mean, he's kind of got the steps laid out for him in that. But there's going to be people who come through that. Like, you know, had bare knuckle been legal when I was 16, 17, 18, like, I would have been about that life. I would be like, no, I'm going to go do this, and that's what I would have done for the past 12 years. You know, so you'll start to see more people coming out like that.
What made you transition from MMA? Because you had some time off there before you jumped into bare knuckle. So what was that?
Man, it was really just burnout from MMA. I was pretty much just done. You know, I'd lived through the glory days that once were, you know, back when everything was pretty pure, and then I lived through the civil wars between all the promotions, and you know, you end up being the victim of that a lot of times, and it was just so many things that just were telling me I don't need to do this anymore. And you know, and I'd been dealing with some injuries. And, you know, I was happy outside of fighting. And I decided I wanted to be happy. You know, and then bare knuckle called on a whim. They needed a last minute opponent. I took the fight on like 3-week notice. And I was like, because they were paying like $2,500, which was way better. You know, I'd made more than that in MMA.
Right.
But like I had to win to make more than
exactly.
that.
That's better.
If I'd have lost, I wouldn't have made that much. You know, but I was like, do I have to win? And they were like, no, it's just straight pay. I'm like, I'll fist fight somebody for $2,500. And, you know, did it, and then it just took off, and you know, the rest is kind of history. Because, you know, and I'd said this on interviews before, and, you know, talking about, you know, past MMA fights and stuff like that. It was, you know, there are people out there that might have been a better wrestler than me, or you know, things of that nature, but I don't think there's anybody on the planet that's going to walk out in the street or out in the parking lot and fist fight me. And then they made fist fighting legal. So, you know, and I was 28. You know, I was really at the perfect time as far as maturity and you know, experience went. So you know, the stars kind of aligned there. God was you know, painting a good one for me.
I think it's interesting how that happened, because, like, you know, everyone kind of went their separate way there after, kind of like you said, like the glory days, and then some people kind of followed a path, and some people just got into their own lane. And the next thing I know, I was like, oh shit, he's fighting what is bare knuckle? I didn't even know until I mean, I knew, but like you didn't see it much on the mainstream, and then I saw you pop up, and I was like, damn, okay, I can get into this.
It started to get pretty popular after that. You know, I'm not saying I'm responsible, but I helped.
Of course. I mean, of course.
Like my first fight, because Brandon Martin, he's my, you know, the other black belt at my school in West Monroe. He fought on BKFC 2, the second one they had in Mississippi. It was the first one ever in Mississippi since like 1851, and he did awesome. He lost in the second round, but he lost to Marcel Stamps, who fought for the title at one time. But he beat the crap out of Marcel the first round, dropped him, had him wobbled. You know, but it was like brand new at that point. Like, this is the second show they've ever done. And, you know, I was still fighting and competing MMA there at the time. And, man, I liked it. I was like, man, this is cool. And, you know, I was listening to Chris Lytle and in the back, and they were like, why are you doing this? I think it was Stitch was back there asking. You know, I'm like fanboying.
Of course, yes.
You know, and he's like, you know, I saw that, I think Joe Riggs had done it overseas or something. And he was like, I saw him do that. And he was like, something just told me, you know, if I don't do that, then I'm not a real combat athlete. He's like, I need to do that. I need to check that off my list. And he had flown overseas and done it, and then I think he fought twice for bare knuckle. You know, and then I was thinking that when he said that, I was like, I get that. I'm like, you know, I was like, if the opportunity ever came up, you know, I would regret saying no. And then it did. You know, I didn't even come looking for it. They actually called looking for Brandon, and he was working or couldn't do it in short notice or something. And I was like, they said, well, what do you weigh? I'm like, hey, you know, it was supposed to be at like 200 pounds at first, and then it was, can you do 205? Can you do 210? Can you do 215? I said yes to every one of them, and because I mean, I was walking around like 202 or something. So You know, I weighed in at like 211 and I had breakfast that day, you know, so, but yeah, it was just, that's mainly what it was, is that I knew if I didn't do it, I'd be sitting there like, man, I had a chance to do that. And I said, no.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, yeah, and the cutting weight thing's different too now, right? Because, I mean, you fought at 185
right.
before in MMA. Mm-hmm. So did I. And that last time I cut weight, which was probably, man, 5 years ago, it almost killed me, man.
Right.
Like, and so it's interesting now to see, like, and also as you get older, you build more muscle and it's harder to get that weight off, I think. But I felt like that I just wasn't the same. I was bigger, and so that weight cut was harder.
Oh yeah.
And now, like, you're able to stay your walk around size
pretty
basically,
much.
and just shave a little weight off.
Right.
How strict are they on the weigh-ins? Like, is it similar to UFC, or they're a little more lenient, or you still have a choice to say, I want this or I don't want it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we get a 1 pound grace every time, and it's pretty much how we did it in MMA. You know, your opponent gets on the scale. I mean, have somebody watching. You know, my dad is always, that's his job at the weigh-ins. He watches the scale.
Yeah.
When my opponent weighs. You know, so yeah, and then they come back and they ask, you know, well, he's overweight. You know, blah blah. And, you know, my answer is always the same. It's like, well, he's got 2 hours.
Yeah.
Good luck. You know, so. But yeah, I mean, it's about the same. I haven't had somebody miss weight on me yet in bare knuckle, but you know, I'm pretty comfortable at my weight where I'm at. You know, I used to walk around a lot smaller at 185, but really, like, I felt like 195 would have been a good weight class.
I feel
for
like
me.
that's a perfect weight class, and it never happened.
And I was pushing for them to do that in bare knuckle, and they still might. There's been talks about it, but you know, because you know, I could walk around at like 200 or 195 pretty easy, but man, when I started getting lower than that, it was killing me.
Yeah.
And just physically I felt weaker. You know, so, and then one of the things that, you know, where we're talking about when you get hit and you're ringing your bell, a large part of that is the fact if you're dehydrated or not.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. And if you've cut, you know, 20 pounds in 2 weeks, then 15 of that was water. And, you know, so, and then that water has to get back around your brain before it's going to prevent you from getting
it doesn't happen that quick either.
No, not within 24 hours.
No.
You know, and that was a big consideration, and, you know, as to why, one of the reasons I was done with MMA, and, you know, one of the reasons I do fight at a higher weight class at bare knuckle, because, I mean, I could make 85 if I had to, but it cost them a lot of money. You know, for me to do that, but I feel like my ability to take punches is way better.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is, like, I feel like the energy level, you know, and also being comfortable. And I feel like a lot of people think, well, you're lighter, you're faster. Not necessarily. Like, if you're not at full energy, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're running on like half a tank, man. And when you're cutting that much weight, your glycogen levels are always low.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, you know. And then when that adrenaline dump hits you, you ain't got nothing left.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and I fought like that for years, you know, but I had fights at heavyweight and 205 when I was in MMA, and I loved it. You know, I felt great. But it's just the fact that in mixed martial arts, you know, John Jones will fight at 205, and that dude walks around at 250.
Right.
And he spent his entire life cutting weight as a wrestler. You know, so, you know, that's a different sport, really. And if you're not built for that, then, you know, that was my biggest issue as far as, because at 205 I was super small. You know, I would fight other 205s, and I fought a couple heavyweight guys, but they were guys that just didn't cut.
Right.
You know, they weren't bodybuilder looking, you know, guys like that. So, you know, and then, but bare knuckle, I used to, when I first started, I was kind of walking around like 202, but they had me listed as like a heavyweight, and they were talking about doing like a heavyweight tournament, and my name was in there, and I looked at who all was in it, and the smallest guy in there was Gabriel Gonzaga, and he was like 6'3", 265 or something like that. I'm like, geez. I'm like, all right, so I need to put some weight on, is what I thought. So I got up to about 240, was eating just nonstop, lifting weights, working out, and this was like right around the Corona time, so I had plenty of time to do that.
Yeah, I remember your size was up there. I was wondering, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'd gotten pretty big, and then, but my body was falling apart.
Yeah.
My back hurt, my shoulders hurt, my hips, my feet, it's everything. And then finally I was at my sports therapist guy, and he was like, you know, I said, man, I think if I lost a little weight, you know, I'd feel a little better. And he was like, I think if you lost 20 to 25 pounds, you'd probably 85% of your problems will go away. I'm like, for real? He was like, yeah, I just didn't want to tell you because I know you've been trying to, you know, get bigger. He's like, but for real, you need to lose weight. You know, so you're not. So then I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to drop to 205, you know. So, but it helped out because then it made me, you know, because I spent so many years trying to stay at 185, you know, my frame was smaller.
Yeah.
You know, so then getting that push to heavyweight and then cutting back down, you know, it got better. So, you know, I walk around about, well, before, you know, I used to walk around about 210, 212, like year round. You know, and that was during Corona, right off the end of it, because I was just obsessed. It was just all I did. You know, I've got, see that in July, I was 242. Just happened, bro.
Yeah.
You know, I had that fight, I broke my face.
Yeah.
And then they were like, you can't do anything for, you know, 2 weeks. And so, and I'm not used to that. Like, even when I'm not training, I'm training other people. And so I pretty much just had to sit around for 2 weeks. And then, you know, I just went however many weeks not eating good.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm going to do is eat good. Man, and it was just, and then, yeah, I got back to working out. And I really couldn't do cardio anymore because of, like, the pressure. They didn't want my blood pressure, me getting too hot or whatever. So I would lift weights. And I got on the scale one night. I think I sent you a picture of it. I was 242.
That's insane.
And I was like, all right. My wife was like, yeah, you're getting a little thick. I'm like, we got to fix this. But, you know, it was all happy weight. You know, I got it off pretty quick. I'm walking around about 215 right now. So it came back off.
Yeah.
I was really worried when we were in Biloxi. First time I cornered him, the night before the fight, he was 215 the night before, and then we went to eat at Waffle House, and he took out a couple eggs and pork chops.
Yeah.
And I pulled his dad aside. I was like,
I was 212.
Yeah, okay. He was up there, and I was like, you know, 2:05 in the morning.
Yeah.
And he's eating at Waffle House, and
Yeah.
I pulled his dad over. I was like, "Are you gonna make weight? What are we doing?" And he was like, "He'll be fine." The next day, we went out there in the sun, and we hit pads for about 30 minutes in the direct sun in Biloxi, and he must have dropped 6 pounds right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just because he's a bigger guy. I didn't realize he would. What's 6 pounds to him is like, you know,
It's like 20 to someone who's a 155er. Yeah.
And I've got it down pretty well as far as, you know, I've been cutting weight forever.
Exactly.
You know, so, you know, and then just staying on top of my diet, you know, what I can eat, what I can't eat, or, you know, back and forth. You know, and I was actually walking around smaller then than I am now. You know, now I've found a little more of a sweet spot where I'm cutting. You know, I think the last fight I went up to Colorado, so I didn't know this, but
couldn't sweat.
And I just started my water cut when I went up there. Well, then the difference in me, you know, pounding water and not sweating, yeah, I was 227 a week before the fight.
Yeah, we were worried.
And I was like, what is going on? And, you know, just kept pounding the water, and it ended up coming off. But I had to cut 6 in the sauna that time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it wasn't a bad cut. You know, it's just bad for me,
Yeah.
you know, as far as that goes.
And he's altitude training. Like, he's running stairs. He's running. The whole time he's there, he's doing high, intense cardio. And he's
weight.
not sweating. He's like, bro, I am not. And we started going to that little sauna place, but still, man, it was like, so when we went back to Louisiana, thankfully it was hot enough.
Oh, yeah.
That he just went outside, took his shirt off, started sweating instantly.
It dropped right back off. So this time I'm going to have my water cut off. We're leaving Saturday for Colorado, so I'll go ahead and have my water gone, you know, before I go up there this time, so it won't be a stress.
So
We're
you're going
staying
to go back
a
up
little
there
bit
and do some more altitude before the fight?
Yeah, we'll be there for 10 days.
Okay. So what's the layout there like?
It's badass.
Like, man, it's awesome.
So is this just purely to get your cardio up?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I bring my camp with me.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've got, you know, all my buddies that like he was saying earlier, that hang out with me. We all train together. So a couple of them usually come up with me, and then Jake comes up. My brother will be there this time, and I mean, we pretty much do the same thing that we do here, just in the mountains.
Yeah,
it's prettier.
Right. You know, we bring our own gear. You know, most days we wake up and we just look up, all right, what are we going to do today? And there's so much to do there.
Yeah, trails. I mean, everything's high intense cardio stuff. So.
And then, you know, we usually just hike with the pads, and then we find a cool place to film, and we work out, and then we hike back. Yeah. And then we go home, eat, rest, and then we're like, all right, what are we about to go do now? You know, until time to go to bed, pretty much.
I like that. Well, I can't believe you're doing it so close to, but I mean, that's cool. That really works. I mean, I guess it's a good kind of unwind, too, right before.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, there's it doesn't matter what I do. If I'm at home, I can't just focus on fighting.
Right.
I've got too many responsibilities, too much stuff going on. So it does affect me training leading up to the fight. As far as what I'm able to do and then slipping around, but knowing that I've got 10 days to just focus on that. One, it relieves a little bit of the anxiety when I'm not necessarily able to make it to Shreveport or make it for this. It's like, all right, I got, but it just gives me that isolation to where it's like, all right, now we get to just, this is what we're doing. We're focusing on that. Everybody there is focused on the same goal. Making me better is what the goal is, but then we have a good time, on top of that. So we get to relax, chill, and train, and that's about it. Our responsibility is to train and recover.
Yeah, we're not dads, we're not coaches, we're just a fighter trainer for just a few days. just a few days. We're just focused on that, and I like it too. I really enjoyed it mentally. I think it got us honed in for that last fight. We were clicking really good, and game plan works, and it doesn't take a lot of punches in this. And if you look at his hands, if he hits you with one of those things, it's going to crush your skull.
Yeah, they're large.
Just one. He don't have to hit hard. Just one of them.
Yeah, my last 3 opponents quit. They didn't get knocked out. They quit.
Yeah, their faces were
because of
just
injury.
like he said, but way worse. His shit was like this, but their shit was like bad.
Yeah, well, I think it's important. That still shot I posted of connected.
Right.
But I think it's important that what you said early on is you're training where to land those punches at.
Right.
So every single one is intentional. Every single thing, and another thing is too like the way the counter. Like if it's a sloppy, then your counter's set up. You know what I mean? Like
right.
I feel like it's just interesting, like to wrap my head around the training of it because I've never done that. I've done a lot of boxing with Jake, but to just specifically focus on one focal point of the face.
Yeah, and it has a lot to do with you have to be coachable for one, but you got to be your own coach on top of it. You got to be able to take yourself out of it and correct yourself. And there's a lot. I think that's a difference in a lot of people that make it high in the sport and people that don't. Is being honest with yourself. And I'm way harder on myself than I should be most of the time. But when I throw a punch and it lands, I know if it landed right.
Yeah.
So you have to have the wherewithal to when we're hitting mitts or we're doing whatever. And I do most of that stuff bare knuckle. But to know, all right, I'm landing on these 2 knuckles. I know that caught out here. My wrist caught a little bit. All right. And you got to be aware of that. And, that's just the biggest thing that I feel like has helped.
Yeah.
And that counter, like you said, is what keeps people pocket shy. Hey, that counter. I want to go get this guy, but I know, like you said, one sloppy move, he's going to roll hook, he's going to slip off and catch me. And that's why you see a lot of people just patiently waiting. 3-4 shots around are thrown.
It reminds me of if you watch like an old school like Chuck Liddell versus someone, like waiting and picking your shots.
Right.
But it's way more like intentional. It has to be that way.
What's crazy is that you can take a really great boxer like Paulie Malignaggi, for example, into bare knuckle. He's not necessarily going to beat the other guy.
Yeah.
The other guy with a little more grit sometimes will inch it out if he doesn't get his shots in first. So we don't really know the paper, rock, scissors formula for bare knuckle yet. We don't know what beats what exactly, but we're figuring it out. You know what I mean?
Well, and I like that. And look, man, there's a lot of fighters that aren't the finesse isn't there. You have it. You know what I mean? There's a lot that don't. A lot of it's just sloppy hooks, which they work if they land.
Right.
If you get hit hard enough anywhere, it's going to fucking work. You know, but like going against someone who has precision versus just throwing wild hooks, it makes a difference.
Right. And we're going to learn that October 1st. That's what everybody's going to learn. Even Conor McGregor had said that it's not speed, it's timing. He was not faster than Jose Aldo, but he knew exactly what he was going to do, and he had the perfect reaction to it because that's what he trained. So and that's important in bare knuckle. And that's one of the things I do like about it is because you have instances where maybe this guy is a better boxer than me. Well, we're not about to box; we're going to fight.
Right.
And in bare knuckle, I have the option to make it a fight instead of a boxing match. Or it's like, no, I am a better boxer. I'm boxing this guy instead of fighting and working back and forth. So just looking and saying, oh, this guy's got better boxing, or this guy's you got to have both.
yes, you get in a weird spot, you can just flip that switch.
Right.
You know what I mean? Okay, all right, we're throwing down now.
Right.
Like, it's like this isn't working. Okay, we're throwing down.
Like Leonard Garcia, like that guy.
MMA or something, you can't do that because you're going to get caught in some other, grapple.
Right,
submission
and you've got to be
situation.
ready for that. I'm never going to get my back put against the cage because I train to make sure it doesn't get put there.
That was another question I had. How is it like? And I'm asking you all these amateur questions because I've yet to be close. I haven't been to a fight in person.
Right.
I'm coming to this one, but like the cage. I mean, the cage. The ring is so much larger. It's circled.
Right.
And the ropes aren't. You don't have the give like a.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of give.
Right. So what's that like? I mean, I guess if you're not getting your back against the ropes, it doesn't matter. But like just all that space.
Well, they all have. Well, I mean, I enjoy the space.
Yeah.
Because I'm moving and using footwork and stuff. I'm trying not to get put against the cage.
Right.
Like, I mean, we had the fish fight, and that's what he thought he wanted to do, and he found out that wasn't what he wanted to do. But. Yeah, hitting it's not much different. I prefer it. It seems like hitting the cage hurt more. You're grinding your face against it and stuff like that. But I mean, it's a custom made ring, and the ropes are actually like I think it's square tubing that's in there.
I was wondering because it looked like they didn't move much, and they definitely weren't boxing ring ropes.
Yeah, they're wrapped with foam, and then they have the logo leather on top of it, but they have a little bit of give. So I mean, it's not like hitting a solid thing. And then I think the bottom two rungs actually break away. So like if you were to fall and hit your head on it, it'll break away instead of breaking your neck.
I think it's smaller than a boxing ring.
Really?
Like a boxing ring standard pole to pole, or 18 by 18 or 20 by 20 from pole to pole.
Okay.
I don't know the diameter
I
of
feel
that,
like it's bigger than that.
But there's a bit, they put the square up and then they make a circle on top of it.
Right, so you have some outside area that may be.
Yeah, so it's cutting. I don't know if it's bigger. I don't know if it's bigger.
I don't know. It doesn't feel huge, but
I guess just the shape throws me off. Just looking at it, it looks larger than it probably is, but still, it looks like a lot of room. And if you're that type of fighter who you are, that you like to use your footwork, take angles and stuff, then it's to your advantage. Whether but you also have that small. You get that small little ring.
I've been in some 20-foot MMA cages before, and it definitely feels bigger than that.
Yeah, I got video of him and Mark sparring in the mini ring.
Yeah,
the
make him spar in the mini ring because you can't go into the ropes.
You can't go anywhere.
You'll go off the side.
Yeah, I mean they don't want the ring to be too big because that stalls the action.
Yeah,
and then all the rules and everything that's put in place is for action. Nonstop. And so they're encouraging you to fight. You're supposed to. I didn't see this in my contract, but at one time there was if you finish the fight and neither one of you leaves the middle circle, you get like a $500 bonus.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, or something like that. So I haven't found anybody willing to do that with me yet, but that's my plan every time.
I just made me think of when I first started training Quentin. I was asking him about bare knuckle because I talked to Johnny Bedford about
how many fights had he had for y'all hooked up?
2.
Okay,
so the last 3 I've been with him.
Okay,
but I remember asking him. I was like, "Can guys?" When they scratch at the line, can a guy take a step back? And he goes, "If you're a bitch." I was like, "Damn, man!" Because my ass is out. He was like, "Yeah, you can, but I mean, you're just a bitch." Basically, I was like, "Damn, this is gonna be good."
Pretty much,
yeah.
And then ever since then, we've been training. That was my first question about bare knuckle. I asked him. I was like, "You can step back, right?" Yeah.
I'm trying to go.
Yeah.
We got 2 minutes, so I'm trying to do work.
That's another thing you brought it up earlier. Is Jake and what you're talking about now is that those rounds. It was always a 3-minute round training at the gym. Always 3-minute rounds in the fight. That 2 minutes just seems it's the pressure's there, like the urgency's there.
Man, and here's what's weird. Okay, I came here one time and fought Michael Mano we sparred at the lot.
Yeah.
And I was in pretty good shape, and we came to do some sparring, and at the end of the second round, I was breathing so hard, and I was like, what is going on? And I looked over and I was like, "Hey, are these threes?" And he was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Man,
got me out here dying."
Unreal, because I was pushing a 2-minute pace for 3 minutes.
Yeah,
and that's completely different, And then, I came back and we sparred again, maybe a couple weeks later or something. But the next time we sparred, I was like, "Can we do 2s?" And we were like, "Yeah." Well, this time he was tired. because I had 2 minutes to just, stay on him the whole time. So, people are like, oh, it's 2 minute rounds, it's shorter. I'm like, yeah, but it's a different pace. It's like sprinting 100 meter or running the mile.
Right. And I'm a firm believer in training what you fight, because like I remember sometimes back in the day, we would train sometimes 5 minute rounds, but it would throw you off if you're fighting a 3 minute. If you're in an amateur fight, you're fighting a 3 minute versus once you turn pro and you fight a 5 minute. It's just the pace is different. But
a sense of urgency.
Yeah. The mindset was like, okay, we're going to train these rounds to get your cardio up, but I don't think especially in a sparring situation, I feel like it needs to be right dialed into what you're going to look at.
Well, I had this conversation with Danger. He was talking to me about this because he said he trains on different times for different days, different things. Like there's a time to do a 1 minute round, a 1 minute sprint. There's a time to do a 3 minute round. There's a time to do a longer round. And according, I think that's up for debate, because every time that round changes, I'm kind of changing my internal clock when I'm fighting. Like I'm learning how to gauge myself according to it's 1 or 2 minutes.
Right.
I'm making that internal adjustment. Right. So syncing up to the same time, while you can see the benefit of that, I kind of see the benefit of changing it.
That makes sense.
What we were talking back and forth. I mean, it's kind of philosophy, I think.
Yeah. I got this from GSP. I was listening to him do an interview or something one time, and he said, he trains when he goes in there and spars or trains, he does it for 25 minutes. And they're like, obviously he does gymnastics, that takes an hour, but when he's training to go spar, it's 25 minutes. And they're like, he's like, it doesn't make any sense. He said, I need to put everything I can in that 25 minutes. If I can go 30, then I didn't do the 25 full.
Yes, it makes sense.
So he's training himself to give everything he's got in 25 minutes every time. And he said, if you start to work and you train for an hour, your body paces itself for an hour. Right. You can't help but do that because you've got to save some for the end. So, I've always kind of kept that same mentality. If I'm fighting for twos, then I run the clock at twos. Yeah. I actually run the clock a little more than two, but, that's because I feel like the first about 10 or 15 seconds is wasted. So, I got to get a little extra.
Yeah. Well, I get, so right. There's two sides to that. I guess if you have to have the fight IQ to know when to turn it up and down, but also training in the elements of what you're going to be fighting in too.
Right. Yeah, when the pace that I push in a fight is rough. Yeah. And as far as just physically what it's doing, if you knew the physical therapy and stuff that I'm constantly doing, not, just to keep from getting hurt, but to stave off different things, because I'm demanding things out of my body it probably shouldn't do. But, that's what happens.
How much road work, these days, I guess, because, when we were doing boxing, you do a lot more road work than you would with MMA sometimes. how much road work are you, running-wise?
I don't run at all, really.
You don't run anymore?
Yeah, I don't do any running. I would do a little bit of running, but I have, plantar fasciitis has been bothering me a little bit lately. I try to ride my bike pretty often, and then I mainly just, if I need cardio, then it's let's turn the clock on, and we're going to spar hard for 10 rounds, and I'm going to get a new guy every round, so that they're able to push me. We get a lot of sparring rounds in. I say spar hard. We don't wear headgear because you shouldn't need headgear. But we're moving, we're pushing the pace, and I just put all that work into my rounds. Yeah. When we're going.
And your spar just 12 ounces.
16s usually.
16s hard.
16s usually. But.
With grease.
If you know how to spar, you're sparring with people at the right level.
Right.
You can do it in a controlled way and still push the cardio. I think that's been a big plus with having Mark around. No knock on my guys that I train with back at home, but none of them are on my level or even a pro fighter. They're there working with me, and they're pretty good. Don't get me wrong. But that's one of the key things that you see in high-level fighters versus everyone else is their control. Yeah. It's one thing if I can throw this jab and take your head off with it, but it's another if I can stop myself from almost taking your head off with it. Right. So, and having that type of control with the people you spar with, one, keeps you from breaking your toys. You know what I mean? I don't want to break my sparring partners because then no one wants to train with me anymore. And we all know that guy from the gym.
I know him.
I know me and Jake know one.
Yeah.
There's a few of them.
Yeah, there's a few of them, man.
And I learned that lesson hard in the very beginning.
Yeah. I thought you were that guy.
Man.
I thought that was you.
No, it's not me.
I thought he was the guy.
I mean, when asked, I can be that guy.
Yeah.
But me and Mark, if you saw us sparring, when me and him are in there, like the younger guys in there, that's kind of their time to, see, and they'll, and that kid was like, man, you caught him with some good ones, that was going on there. And, we do catch each other back and forth, but we both know at the same time, like we're controlling what we're doing.
We're working here. We're not fighting.
Right. We're working. And being able to work with those guys makes just the biggest difference possible,
That was the biggest thing. I remember, like, coming up, that was the biggest thing for me. Like, I'd spar someone who's completely out of my league, but I wasn't thinking that they were going to – you should be able to move down and, and help use them to your advantage for certain situations and stuff like that. But I was thinking – God, I got my ass kicked. Right. That's all I was thinking, because I wasn't. And as you do it more, you realize, okay, you're adjusting to that level, and it's helping both of you.
Yeah, and people don't understand. We were talking to some guys a week or two ago that there were some new guys there that have been sparring, and Jake was explaining with them, like, hey, look, these guys are pro fighters, and like they'll go as hard as you want.
Yeah,
if you set the pace.
And that's where they're going to keep it. And that's an important thing to be able to stay on top of and work with everybody, at their level, wherever that's going to be, because that's people doing it the wrong way keep a lot of people from going and trying.
Yeah.
Or even showing up because they go into the wrong gym and the coach is like, yeah, you want to get some sparring in there? And then they leave with brain damage, and they're brand new to what's going on. So, we try to keep things, in a learning environment, because when I'm sparring you, I'm not, at my level, I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to practice things that I need to do.
Exactly.
And if I can't practice those things without letting myself be vulnerable, then I can't get better at them. And if every time you see that I'm vulnerable, you try and decapitate me, I'm just not going to practice them.
Right.
But then there's always that one guy who's right even with you, who's right there with you, and if you see him across the ring, the first guy to land, it's going to, I mean, for me, I would say he's even with me, but every time I spar Kendrick, first shot, first time someone gets hit, it's like, like, I don't know if I'm ready to spar Kendrick today. Because I hurt you.
No, I remember that. Yeah.
I mean, but some guys are like that. And,
and you got to know. Yeah.
The other day he was in there sparring him, and we had about 8 guys working through with him and Mark, and they were all, him and Mark would spar, and then guys would rotate, and a couple of guys he was boxing with 145 pounds. Mm-hmm. But I'll go and be like, hey, let's just parry his shots. Let's work on seeing it, knock it away with your right hand, and then your left hand. Or I'll tell Mark, let's just slip this round. Like, you can hit the guy if you need to, let him throw his shots, but let's work on slipping and going around. Practicing one thing with the lower level guy. And, you have to worry about getting your head knocked off. So I think it's beneficial to work with people that aren't as good as you, and everyone kind of wins.
Yeah, and I've been on the flip side of that, because coming up when we always trained, it didn't matter how big the person was. No. You just sparred everybody.
Yeah, you sparred everybody.
Same thing as grappling. It doesn't matter if I outweigh them or whatever. You spar whoever. But, I've been a victim of that a lot of times, where it's a guy who's much bigger, but, it worked for me because of my mentality, but I can understand how a lot of people, aren't. Like Garrett McGrew is a guy I trained with forever, and just a big dude, freak athlete, but he lacks that control. And it's not like he's trying to hurt you, but in order for him to throw it that fast and hit you, it's coming, it's going to do some damage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And me as a pro, that was great because I needed that every now and then. Like, because if he hit me, I was going down.
Yeah.
He hit me so hard one time, I thought it felt like when his glove removed, it was going to be imprinted in my face. Like my whole face was caved in. And, but I had different aspirations than some people. Some people just want to get in there and get a workout. Or some people, at that point in my career, I was I guess, seasoned enough to take that and look at it as a positive thing. But, you got to have, especially guys like me, because they come in here and they watch us spar and they want to do what we're doing. And if you just get in there and beat the crap out of them, you're just proving to them in their head what they already felt like they knew, is that they can't do it. So.
And DJ, this too, if anyone ever comes to you before you spar and say, okay, we're going to go 40%, what that means is, you're going to go 40% and I'm going to knock your fucking head off.
Yeah.
That's what that means. So don't ever listen to that shit. You say, I will go as hard as you go.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
That's how it would be too. I mean, I know you remember that, but like it was, dude. We used to beat the shit. So just like you said, I mean, we're probably the same mentality. Just
box him.
See, I'm a lot nicer about it because I go with a lot of people, and they're bigger guys, but like what I judge it based on is the intent behind the punch.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily how hard the punch landed; it's how hard you meant for it to land. And I can tell as to what you're doing.
Yeah, you can see it on their face.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, whoa, bro, what's wrong?
And
What's the
hips,
matter?
and the hips. Like, you see the hip turnover.
Yeah.
The
So
rage.
then, that usually happens, and then I'll usually hit them really good once or twice. I'll usually stick them super hard, and then I'll just be like, we can do this if you want to.
Yeah.
But think about it. And then they're like, oh, yeah, all right, man, my bad. But a lot of guys like me aren't like that. You go to tee off on them and they're like, oh, free range, it's time.
Yeah.
And I'm more like, forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do type of situation.
Yeah.
And then let me remind them real quick. And then they go, that was a jab? And I'm like, yeah, you really want to do this?
Yeah.
And then they're like, no.
Do a lot of battle of the badge work with firemen, police, and a lot of times those guys come in and they're all tough guys. They just don't know how to box yet, so they're tough. And they'll throw big shots at you. And I like stand right in front of them, let them throw, and you just kind of sidestep, and they'll just fall over. Like, bro,
Yeah.
Putting
everything they got into it.
Yeah, some people can't help but just that's what they think that boxing is.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people. There's just like the people that are the crowd commentary. Like there's always gonna be the people that say everything. They even, and I'm probably even more so in bare knuckle because they relate it to like a street fight, but it still isn't.
Right.
Because a lot of times in a street fight scenario, one of you is better than the other, and it's not well matched up.
Right.
Or one's intoxicated. Yeah. It's never like the same skill level, the same weight, slightly intoxicated, whatever the variance may be. Like no rules.
One's transvestite.
Right. Yeah. You never know.
It's whatever.
Yeah, man. Whatever. But like, it's a lot of people just they have things to say because they think that they may have gotten a little tussle somewhere that they know what they're talking about. But honestly, you just don't, man. Until you do that specific sport and train that specific thing to get into that specific match, you have no fucking clue what you're talking about.
Man, you're preaching to the choir with that. There's so many guys out there. I had a guy. Come up to me after we did Battle of the Badges. I went and was promoting the fight. Yeah. And then at the after party, I was sitting there talking to J.R. Moore, one of the promoters, and his wife, and this little fella come up and was like, he'd already talked to me earlier and kind of driven me crazy, but he had was showing me his knuckles and was saying something, and like. It was loud for one, and two, he was so far away I couldn't. I had to bend over, and I'm like, "What was it?" And he was like, "You ain't the only one with scabs on your knuckles."
Okay.
And I'm like, "Do what?" I'm like, "Is this guy trying to fight me right now?" And I'm not drinking. I'm just at the, and I'm like. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, this and that going on, but
he said, okay, weird flex,
right? Weird flex, but okay, and it's what's funny about it is the misconception that men have in the difference between me and them, right? People that haven't trained, right? Like I'm the number 2 bare knuckle boxer on the planet at 205. Yeah. Okay, so who would be the number 2 basketball player in the NBA? Debatable. Steph Curry, LeBron James.
Yeah.
Would you go to LeBron James?
I play horse with him
and let him know, like, hey, bro, you ain't the only one that's got a crossover.
Exactly.
Right.
That can shoot a jumper.
Yeah. Right.
And it's something like they just have to prove themselves. They have to let me know that. They want me to know that they know that I know that they're not a punk.
Exactly.
And I don't even care.
Yeah, it's like,
at all.
It's an insecurity thing, and it's big and yeah. And dude, I think I fought with that young when I started because it was when you go out somewhere, that's what happened. You know, and then you start getting into the gym. And you still were kind of had that weird flex. Well, hey, by the way, motherfucker, I train. I fight. But then you get to the point where you're like, okay, now I'm on a different level. So we're like, I don't have time for that, nor it's like.
But a lot of it is that you understand that it's dangerous,
exactly,
because you've been exposed to it,
exactly,
and the fact that people were blissfully ignorant of it is what makes them so brave,
exactly.
And the fact that I know all the things that could go wrong is what makes me not want to have a fight,
exactly.
And so it's just funny that how that transcends. It's completely different with fighting than any other sport. I had a guy that had never had a fight before that told me, he was going to be in bare knuckle fighting championships. He's 32. Great guy, love him to death. He's one of my students, but I told him flat out, I said, I'm having trouble getting on their cards. At the time I was. And I'm like, what makes you think you can get on one? I was like, I'm not going to pick up a guitar and then never played a day of my life and be like, hey, you know what? I'm playing at the Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Within this many years. And it's just it's just strange how men just attract themselves to that type of thing, and just the misconceptions.
To add to that, being a boxing coach in Shreveport Bossier, going out at night and stuff, you should hear the shit I'm told by people. People that I just noticed that a lot of people like to come up and let me know that they have had fights. They are a 10-0 street fighter.
Yeah.
They would do boxing, but they would kill someone.
Yeah.
So I say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for not boxing, because you would. Thank you for not.
Right.
Thank you for me and all my boxing friends. We want to give you a thank you for not doing it. I see that shit. But why do dudes have to come up and, we're at the lot, everyone's out there drinking, partying. Guy comes up, he's like, I knocked out 15 people. I'm like, I don't care, bro. I don't care. That's the same shit.
Dude, that was something we grew up in, though, man. I mean, I remember that being a thing, and until you get into the sport and respect it, you realize that it's all bullshit. Coming down from not understanding it and not competing and not knowing that you're on a whole other level than someone just throwing some punches behind a bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had an interview the other day. Somebody was asking me, how many fights, did you get into when you're 8, 9, 10 years old, this and that? And I'm like, none.
Yeah.
I've been training to fight since I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
So I've known what the results are when you fight, what can happen. And, so I think it kept me from getting into a lot of fights. But, when I did get in fights, I was fine.
Yeah.
But, that's one of the things that people worry about, getting their kids into boxing. And, I don't want them to make them mean. It's like, no, what you're doing is you're teaching them respect for it.
Yeah.
You're teaching them what happens when something goes wrong. Because I got little boys in my gym that'll be coming and doing jiu-jitsu, and they're not listening, they're not paying attention, and then the first thing I do is match them up with a girl. And they get wrecked. And I have a little girl wreck them, and I talk smack to them about it the whole time. And, but that's what they need.
Yeah.
They need to be humbled, because they need to realize, okay, I'm not that tough.
Well, there's another thing, too. Jiu-jitsu is a great thing to bring up there, is that, at that age, 7 to 12 years old or whatever, when all the bullying really happens in schools, being able to have the control that if you do get in a situation, you can deter someone without hurting them too.
Right.
That's another good thing. I think that's a skill, especially from jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Put them in a position to where, hey man, we're not doing this, but by the way, I'm letting you know I can handle it.
Oh yeah, definitely. But just exposing them to it is what's teaching them.
Yeah.
You're educating them on it. It's like the best way to teach gun safety is to teach them how to use a gun.
Right.
And the same thing with Jake has got the youth boxing program here in town. And that's what I think a lot of people are missing, and they don't understand. Because I'm a product of that. My dad didn't start me in martial arts because he thought I was going to be the champion bare knuckle fighter. It was something that he did, but it was something that kept me active. But it also gave me respect for fighting, and not a respectful fear or a healthy fear of it. Because as a man, you need that. You need to be humbled. As a child, you need that, and the sooner you can get it, the better.
Yeah.
And so that's my little sales pitch for anybody that find a gym and get your kids active in that.
Well, I know that for a fact because I was a knucklehead until I got into it.
Right.
Because I thought I was a tough guy.
Yeah.
Until I started getting my ears rang every fucking day going in the gym, and I realized, hey man, I have respect for this now. It's different.
Right, because then that happens to you when there's a coach there and there's a round timer and you can tap out, and then you go, okay, what if I ran into this guy in a dark alley?
Yeah, exactly.
Or what would he do to me? What would happen? So, and you never know. You know what I mean? There's been plenty of people that there's somebody that could be coming down here from Iowa and not be a fighter at all, but he wrestled for 6 years when he was a kid, and he picks you up and slams you.
Exactly.
It's you don't know.
Another thing you can do is when you see someone really good, like when Kendrick does come into our gym and works out, the other kids can see him, see what he's doing, ask about his diet. How does he stay so lean? You can see why someone's so good when you go to the gym. You can see what the goal, and then like, okay, I really do want to be a fighter. It takes a commitment of life.
Yeah, and it's like what you were saying. Like it's great for self-discipline. I think it's the best thing in the world for self-discipline, because so many of us don't have it, especially this day and age versus 20 years ago. But it's also great if you want to compete. It's good all the way around. Like any type of, like, from jiu-jitsu to boxing, I think if you compete in any of the, or train in any of those aspects, it's great for your self-discipline. If you actually want to fight, a sense of meditation, if you would, or therapy, you know what I mean, kind of thing.
Yeah, let you get some aggression out.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's self-healing. It's food for your soul. It's you working on any art, whether it's painting, music, whatever it is. You working on that art.
It is art
for your soul.
It is art.
That's
right.
a personal investment.
It's funny the way it works is because, like, the more disciplined you are, the better you'll become at it. But the less disciplined you are, if you keep doing it, the more lessons you'll learn.
Yeah,
because you're learning. Okay, I'm throwing up right now because I drank this weekend, or and it's there to always hold you accountable. It's always a self check.
That's a good point too. And what you're doing is accountable as fuck. Like, as far as the sport, like if you make one mistake, there's less leeway.
Oh yeah,
in that reaction.
You get guys like you hear people talk about, there ain't no way. I think Lorenzo said, there ain't no way he'll knock me out. Let me hit you. If I hit you once, you can be knocked out. I promise you. Once you're my size, and I feel like I hit extremely hard for even my size, but I'm a firm believer. Once you're about 170 pounds, you knock anybody out if you throw a decent punch.
Yeah.
It's just got to land right.
Yeah.
So that's another. I've seen it plenty of times. I've seen big guys get dropped, and I've seen little guys get dropped, or just same size, just from seem like nothing. And I've knocked people out with punches that were like, man, I didn't even hit him that hard.
Yeah.
So it's just more of that fool's play.
Well, look, man, I've had a good time today. Is there anything? I mean, we're already over an hour, man. Right. We're on. So let's wrap this thing up. Is there anything? Any final thoughts or anything y'all want to say? Anything you got to say?
Man, I'm just super excited about the fight. Being in Monroe, getting to bring bare knuckle to Louisiana. We're gonna have Lauren Thibodeau and the other guys on the card. Andy. I'm super excited about that.
I haven't seen Andy in years, man.
Right. We're able to which she's been on one fight for him already. So but them getting an opportunity to kind of do this at home. I'm glad I'm able to kind of bring that here. Man, I'm just thankful for God and what He's been doing in my life, and bringing all the right people around me as far as helping things fall into place. And man, I'm just super focused. Everything. I've never felt better for a fight. And it's like I know what the result's going to be. I just got to do the work.
Yeah.
And I think that our state as a whole, we were so close with Dustin Poirier and Khabib. We were so close to that Super Bowl win, and we've been close, and we've got great fighters that may down the road get championships. But this is our Super Bowl, and this is our state, and we want everyone to stand up, and we're gonna have a big ass party when this is over and he wins. We're gonna have a big celebration, and I'm already celebrating. I feel like we already won.
I'm excited, man. I'm ready.
We're there.
All right, man. Appreciate you guys.
Heck yeah.
Thank you.